What is going on, everyone? It is Drew here. Today's video is actually going to be an episode of the Beyond the Garment podcast, the podcast that I host. I had a chance to talk with John Taylor, who is a senior fashion designer. He's worked with brands such as Aime, Dore, Gucci, Nike, Thom Browne, and several others. If you're interested in fashion, interested in design, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. It was a great conversation. There's a lot of words of wisdom. Hopefully, you guys enjoy, man. 3, 2, 1. Today, we have one of the most incredible guests that we've ever had on the podcast. Allow me the honor of introducing John Taylor. For those who don't know, John is an American fashion designer and artist who specializes in menswear. He's worked at some of the most prominent brands in the world, the likes of which are Thom Browne, Nike, Gucci, Aime, Dore, and several others. And if that's not enough for you, John is currently in the process of launching his own line, Moment Om. Hopefully, I pronounced that right. But saying all that is saying that I'm excited is an understatement, you guys. Let's get into today's episode. John, how are you doing today, sir?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Just keeping my head up. You know what I'm saying? Trying to stay safe while trying to conquer, I guess, chip away.
Definitely. And did I say that right? Moment. How do you pronounce the
It's it's French for man.
French.
But I just call it moment. But really, there's so many parallels to that name. But one of them is actually a play off the word momentum.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When I was in school studying menswear in Chicago, I came up with this phrase, and I will always say that momentum controls the universe. And ironically, that's how the name kind of made sense to me with a couple more factors, but we can get into that a little later. But
definitely. We'll definitely get into it, man. You probably don't know this, but I've said this a couple times on my podcast. I'm in the process of learning French, so it's definitely a language that I'm always gravitated towards, and I love the naming. I didn't know momentum was a part of the wordplay on that. That's super dope. Super dope.
Yeah.
But let's get into the first question, man. What is your background? Where are you from? And how was it like for you growing up as a kid?
Oh man, I'm a country boy, man. I live in New York City, me and my wife and my daughter, but I'm from Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I'm from a small town called Whitehall, which is inside a small city called Pine Bluff, which is about 35 miles south of Little Rock, which is, the capital of Arkansas, pretty much the only place that everyone knows. But growing up, man, was pretty cool, man. I recognized early on that I truly benefited from having a strong mother and father in my life. And I also early on I recognized that art and creativity would somewhat be my weapon of choice in regards to maneuvering through this life. So
okay.
Overall, and then of course, as I got a little older and junior high school, I started playing sports, started playing football. So I lived a interesting dynamic, man. I was the football star and the art geek. It was funny because I was
very rare, rare.
I was painting the banners that we was running through on Friday nights. You know what I mean? So it was a trip, man. But that was kind of my dynamic. You know what I mean? We really didn't have any celebrities coming up, no sports teams. So the people was, your character, your personality was who the stars was around my neighborhood. So
definitely. Who is big in Arkansas? You didn't really have anyone that you looked up to? Or
no, I mean really no one. I guess you had notable figures like Bill Clinton, who was from Hope, Arkansas. I mean, you had a few players that may have gotten into whatever league, but other than that, there's really no prominent person like where Michael Jordan is from North Carolina. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it really isn't that kind of figure coming from Arkansas, but I will say there's a lot of great people there.
Definitely.
Inside those woods and forests and trees and shit, man. So a lot of good people in Arkansas.
Definitely, man. There's a point I want to kind of touch on that you mentioned that you said you knew you wanted to get into art and creativity. Is there anything that you can think of that, whether it be like your family dynamic or anything that kind of grooved you, or was it just something internal from the get-go?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, ever since when I won my first art contest, I was in the 5th grade.
Okay.
They handed me a $200 check. I was like, oh shit, this is something that I sketched on the piece of paper and it won an art contest. Once that happened, man, I remember when I saw Lion King I'm about to tell my age. I'll be 38 next month. But I saw Lion King the first time when I think I was in the 5th grade. Right. And I remember watching that film in the theater with my mom, and I was like, you know what? I think this is somewhere within this is something that I want to do with my life, whether it's sketching or painting or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that vision, that mindset kind of carried on to maybe around 8th grade until I started to I hit my growth sprout and I was like 6 foot and started playing sports, you know what I mean?
A little bit more burly.
Maybe I become a successful running back or something, you know what I mean? So yeah. But I always knew that I could rely on creativity. You know what I mean? Like even
Definitely.
through my life, I mean, I guess looking at, playing with fabrics, putting them on my Air Force Ones, and then like seeing it like, I'm saying on camera and shit on the video, like, oh, I did that last year, so it was just kind of little stuff I was just playing with when it came to clothes and fashion and sketching,
Definitely.
So yeah.
Definitely, man. Definitely. One of the questions that I kind of want to move on to is along the lines of where does your design career begin, man? Because it's really interesting, I feel like, hearing the story of how an individual has gotten to where they are, right? And where that story begins. We talked to a couple of weeks ago. I talked to a collaborations designer at New Balance, Jordan Johnson. He's from my community, and his story is absolutely incredible. He went to like different camps, and he was approached by different people in the industry. How did you really begin your design career?
You know what? I would honestly say my career prior to fashion design, before I got into fashion design, I was a juvenile probation officer.
Yep.
For 5 years, 3 years in St. Louis, Missouri, and another 2 years in Chicago when I was working with the youth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be totally just full transparent with you, man. I was getting more compliments for my attire than my overall caseload, and that was like, if I can give you a year, that might have been maybe 2008 through 2011, when
right.
the whole new menswear, this whole emergence of menswear started to come up. And, I knew that was something there. And so I would, that was kind of like my hobby. Like I knew when the shows was, and I would watch my favorite show, whether it be Gucci or Zinnia or whatever, and I would critique the looks and say, oh, that jacket shouldn't have had epaulets. That should have been a 3-piece. You know what I mean? So, and I, at the time, I didn't know it was design, but it spanned out to me knowing that I could sketch. And once I discovered that sketching is a decent component to menswear and fashion, I went for it. I quit my job and I sketched up a portfolio and I sent it to the School of the Arts of Chicago, and it landed in Nick Cave's lap, and who happens to be one of the most prominent top visual artists, performers in the industry. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, man, ever since 2012 is when I got accepted. I would say that was the beginning of this journey. And I think I need a new word besides journey, because I've been saying this whole journey shit for years, and now everyone is starting to run it thin. But I never call this a career. For me, it's a journey, And then since I got that envelope saying that I got accepted to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, I just been chipping away. You know what I'm saying? So that was the beginning.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your acceptance for a second. How did that feel? How did it feel?
It was a big realization, man, and I'll speak on that realization. I had no idea that SAIC was one of the top art schools for graduate, like second to Yale during that time. You know how those school charts, those schools.
Exactly. Yep.
1 year is one year, whatever. So anyway, during the time, it was like number 2, but I didn't know that until I actually got accepted. Because honestly, if I had known that the school was that prestigious, I probably would have got, they're not gonna pick me. Who am I? You know what I'm saying? I just knew moving to Chicago that they did have some type of school there. So I just sketched up something and sent it to them. So once I got that, envelope saying I got in, it was a moment. It was a moment, man. And it pretty much, it's still pushing me,
Definitely, definitely, man. It's special because actually me and my girlfriend, we were just watching the Netflix documentary about the college scandals. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about?
Where I love it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
With Rick Singer, right?
Yep, Rick Singer. That man, Rick Singer, boy.
that shit is trippy.
But you see in the beginning of that documentary all the kids waiting for their acceptance, and no matter what level you're at, the moment you get accepted into an institution that you believe can better yourself.
Yeah.
It's a powerful moment for
It
sure.
is.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I got accepted into the university I went to. It's powerful.
Absolutely.
But one of the questions I want to ask you next, JT, is about skill sets. This podcast, man, I created this podcast to help up and coming designers, artists, creatives, etc. Right?
Yeah.
We've kind of talked around the periphery of what you do, how you've come up, your journey, etc. What are some of the more tangible skill sets that you can give someone who's listening right now, who wants to maybe not be you, but follow along a similar path that you took, right?
Um, Before I, get into the context of giving advice, which I always do because, I kind of run away from the title mentor. However, I extend my hand to a lot of students, whether they go to FIT or Parsons or even back in Chicago at SAIC.
Because you taught too as well, right?
Yeah, I taught a little class in Brooklyn, but it was just at an elementary/middle school. But I still, of course, whether you're my assistant or intern, I'm still always, providing and giving information. It's not in the context of I'm big broing you or, you know what I'm saying, or being some old head, whatever. But
Yeah,
it's always in the context of providing insight from things I went through. And I always reference, one of my applied models from my fraternity. It's lift as you climb. And so with that being said, I always just kind of go to me and my story in regards to skill set. And so for me, it was always mindset before skill set. And in between there, knowing what your gift is. And if you really don't know what your gift is, perhaps knowing what you're capable of doing. It could be from gift to capability, right? And then mindset. And so again, like I was saying, just me, coming from the courts, and telling myself, oh, you know what, I'm not about to give these courts my best years of my life. But before you know it, I'll be 40 in this place, bald and wishing I had pursued it, right? So with that being said, I just had the mindset first that I knew I could do this. I knew that I could, step forward to this and just see what happens. And then once I got inside the space, right, that's when I, of course, realized, okay, these are the skill sets that I need to have. But what pushed me to the skill sets was the mentality. You know what I mean? I think that's so important to be able to see yourself being in that space, and that's what's going to get your feet moving. And so that's what I always depend on. You know what I mean?
definitely, man.
That vision, seeing myself there, and that got me moving. But to throw out some skill sets, I mean, just understanding what your gift is, understanding what you're strong at, know what your proposition is, know what you can do that no one else can do. Me, I always say my strength as a designer is my sketches. I'm able to accurately, with every detail, sketch out exactly what I want. And then from the sketches, I'm able to, source and swatch, and I know what type of fabrications I need to build this collection. And of course, knowing silhouette and different references or whatever. So just kind of knowing what your strength is and just going off of that momentum, But of course, I mean, here's the thing is, of course, I know how to use Illustrator, but I'd rather not. If the person beside me may be better than me, so you know what I'm saying. But
totally.
I have to, of course, if need to say, if I can't get this off to an assistant or a junior, I can do it myself. So. Definitely dabble with Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and just see what that can give you. For me, I always say when you're too close to a garment, you can't see it. So I'm the person that, luckily me, I'm able to sketch out the full vision, and that really helps me. That carries me through the whole process. But I'm not trying to deter someone from if they want to be a pattern maker, be a pattern maker.
Of course.
But I'm not about to be a pattern maker. I remember again, I came into school. When I started at school, I was 29. I already had life lessons. So I pretty much knew what my strength was. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like I knew if I was to move from Chicago and go to New York, or if I was to go to London, I knew that it wouldn't be, cut and sew developing with my hands. It'd be, idea, sketching it out, building it, you know what I'm saying? And direct, you know what I mean? So that's basically what I guess I would push on to someone.
No, I love that. And that actually hits really hard home for me. And one of the things you said that I hear often is this importance on mentality.
Yeah.
And you know, when I came up, John, JT, I was a hooper. So I hooped all my life, played Division 1. And, you know, one of the guys that I love to study from a skill standpoint and from a mentality standpoint is the late great Kobe Bryant.
Yes.
Why? Because his mentality, in similar to Michael's when we saw The Last Dance, is to always be the best version of himself, to always dominate the other person. That's a
Yeah.
mentality for sports, but it also is something that can be carried into life that I've
Yeah.
noticed in the standpoint of you have to know where you want to be and know how, you know that you're not going to stop to get there, essentially, right?
Right. That's right.
And what you said really is important about your gift, knowing, you know, your talents, knowing what you're good at. And for someone who right now who's like, I don't know my talents, I think that one of the ways I would say to help find out what your talents or your gift is you have to try a lot
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you try something and like JT is saying, you know, you want to do pattern making, but you're not really that good at pattern making. Like, it just doesn't click for you. You can
Yeah.
maybe push your way through it, but at the same time, you might be, you know, better at sketching and you might
Yeah.
find more success at sketching.
Right.
Example number one right here. So I love that. I think a lot of people will get a lot of value out of that right there,
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah.
that's dope.
That's
Let's
right.
talk about your personal line, Moment Om. Can you tell us a little bit about what you have in the works? I'm really excited to hear about this.
It's so funny, man, because if I can kind of, I guess, go back with Moment, how it came about, because really Moment is just a personal story that I feel that everyone can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
How the name actually came about the first, I mean, before momentum controls the universe, which I can speak about that a little later. When I was in school, when I first heard the name MoMA, the Museum of the Modern Arts,
Mm-hmm.
because we would take study trips from Chicago. We would go to New York during Fashion Week, and we would have this whole itinerary. So anyway, when I first heard, the name MoMA, I was like, wow, that's such a beautiful name. I don't know what it means to me, but it sounds beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And I told myself if I was to have a brand, I would want the name of the brand to sound similar to MoMA. And the first word that came in my lap was moment. And then just that word moment just kind of it stopped me. Like this specific time in life when something occurred. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also even the way I speak, the way my memory's set up as far as life, I speak in moments. Like I always bring out, I remember one time my dad said blah, 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 blah. That's the reason. You know what I mean?
Right.
I do that a lot. So anyway, and then I added the own because of course, menswear and kind of give it a little pizzazz. And then from there, I was like, oh shit, I'm always talking about momentum controls the universe, meaning, that momentum can come from a compliment. It can come from executing a fast collection, in 2 weeks. And then from there, just going on, just chipping away. You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that.
Like even going from what you were saying about Kobe, I'm pretty sure, his greatness came from the momentum when he first stepped on court, as a young kid, and he hit his first shot, and he knew, okay, I can be great,
Yep.
and realizing that momentum. So with that being said, that's kind of how, Moment Om came about. And when I first attempted to launch Moment in 2015, so all you listeners out there, you can go to Hypebeast, you can check out the first collection. It's the SS16 collection. Check it out.
I'll link it. I'll link it down below too.
Yeah. So anyway, when I first launched Moment, that was during a time when I always say I let my optimism overcompensate my common sense, thinking I could, start a luxury company with 30 grand,
Right.
But it was crazy because I got so much traction from that lookbook, man. I mean, everyone from, all of your global luxury brands, your global luxury retailers such as Dover Street to Birds of Goodman Barney's, Colette and Paris, they all responded and they wanted to see more. And I was featured in Women's Wear Daily, One to Watch. So things were happening, just me stepping out saying, hey, I'm going to do this, but just within 2 years of me living in New York City. But however, like I said, things was going too fast. I didn't have as many resources and connections as I have now. You know what I'm saying? New York City was big to me at that time, so I decided to put Moment on the shelf. And when I put it on the shelf, I was totally satisfied with that. Because again, my reward during that time was the fact that people was responding to it. And then the feedback was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So with that being said, man, I was totally fine with putting it on the shelf around 2016. and I crafted this idea to become the go-to menswear, humbly speaking, the go-to menswear designer in New York City by only designing for quote unquote the hottest brands in New York City. Because I felt during that time I only had two options: either A, take a job at Polo or somewhere at PVH, Tommy Hilfiger or whatever, and click on the mouse all day until I built up the courage to jump out the window, or do I attack these cool brands, and a lot of these cool brands wasn't even really companies, you know what I mean? They may have maybe two people working, but however they had a little buzz because in the space that they operated in, right? Because it wasn't corporate. So I went that route. And I told myself, when I get to a point where I feel like my experience, my name, my story is strong enough. So honestly, I don't even have to speak about the whole criminal justice shit prior. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because when I had my Women's Wear Daily feature, it said, in 2 years, this guy was taking ankle bracelets off of kids in Chicago. Now he's in Paris with Thom Browne. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So not that that's a bad thing. That's actually a bar, but still,
it is.
That was moment in the beginning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And from there, hold on real quick. And
you're good.
So sorry. Let me go back to. You good there? We're back. Yeah, something came up on my computer. I don't know.
No, it's good. It's good. No, we're good.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was moment in 2015 when I attempted to launch it, right? And now, speaking about moment, almost 6 years.
Yep.
I'm in a place now where, I don't necessarily want to say that I'm going to do an official launch for this summer or next winter. But however, I am slow cooking it and I am working on some good stuff in regards to making sure that within the next year, moment gets some real attention. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
I don't want to be one of those people that speak about it, that it falls flat. I don't want to say fall flat again, but because the first time it was enough that people was fucking with it. It was enough that people was, reaching out, these stores that I would, dream of being placed in, these magazines that I would read, but now, I'm just being very quiet about what's next for moment as far as me taking it off the shelf. But I feel good.
Good, man.
I'll say that.
That's good.
I'm sorry for cussing. I'm so sorry. But
oh no, don't feel sorry for cussing. I don't know. People say that they feel sorry for cussing because I don't cuss as much, and people always apologize. I don't care. I don't care at all.
I'm just on your platform. You know what I'm saying? Just being respectful.
I appreciate it. I truly do. No, that's incredible though. I mean, it's always exciting to get something personal, work on something personal, have your own baby, and just kind of see it develop, from here and there in different places and whatnot.
That's right.
So I'm definitely very excited about it and keeping tabs on it, and I can't wait to see what comes of what you do.
Yeah. You're definitely know for sure. You definitely know.
No doubt. JT, let's talk a little bit about, you touched on this a little bit in the last question, but let's talk a little bit about experience working with some of these other brands in New York. Can you just kind of give us a little bit of who you were working with, what you were doing, the experience, those kind of things? I think it's just a kind of very cool moment for the podcast to hear your experiences.
Cool, absolutely. I think in the beginning when you said Gucci, Aime, Dore, and Nike, which is the irony of those three brands is actually my 2019, my year of 2019, man. And I think as far as this journey of mine, I think that's a year I remember for the rest of my life. Because I remember in January, I was making it back from Paris, and I was doing market for Willie and a dear friend of mine named Adam Marr. So I was working both those brands doing market. That was fall, winter 19, and get back from Paris. And then maybe a week later, Gucci, they do the, you remember the blackface, Lava sweaters controversy.
Yep.
So when that happened, I was one of the first people to reach out to Dapper Dan about this.
Okay.
And I was like, hey man, I see what you're doing. I see the position you're in. Gucci has always been very dear to me, even before the design days when I was a big consumer. I would love to help. This is who I am. This is what I've done. I'd love to help. And so his son, Jelani, actually, he emailed me the VP of Gucci North America's email.
Wow.
And he told me, he said, hey man, just send them your resume, your portfolio, your story, and just see what happens. And so I did, I did. And the woman, she didn't even respond to my email. She just forwarded to the headquarters in Milan. And the following day, someone from Global Acquisitions, at the headquarters hit me up, and they were saying like, hey, Lucinda just forwarded us all your information and we'd love to talk. Are you cool with doing a Skype? And I was like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? And I have to listen, as far as this journey, I haven't had a feeling like that ever since the beginning when I moved to New York City in 2013. I got, an email from Thom Browne saying, hey, can you come in?
That's incredible.
But anyway, so when I got that email from acquisitions at Gucci, I was like, oh my God. I remember showing my wife, like, yo, shit is going crazy right now. Like, this
crazy.
Is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I'm from Arkansas, bro. Like, listen, I got to drive 4 hours just to see quality, just to see some real Gucci. And that's in Dallas, Texas. And that's still not even the full collection. You know what I mean?
Man.
And so anyway, so the fact that they, sent that to me, and I was like, oh, wow. So of course, had the Skype with acquisitions. It was great. And she asked me if I could, sketch out a small capsule collection, which had to be, of course, Gucci, inspired, but also me. And I did. I'm not going to get into detail what I sent them. However, I get it. They loved it and they wanted to see more. So I made a bigger capsule collection. Again, won't get into details what it was. However, it was referenced, but I'll never bash Gucci because who knows? It may be another 360 full circle moment where I maybe
of course
collaborate, work with them. You know what I'm saying? On something.
Of course.
Whatever. So anyway, so this spanned out. I'm gonna tell you something. This spanned out for maybe 7 months because that was during the year when Gucci was doing the Met here in New York City. So they were going back, and of course they're doing their shows, and they're going back and forth, doing the stuff with the Met.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of back and forth, and it was going kind of slow. And so this spanned out ever since this spanned out from February, the top of February, to when that happened, to the end of July. And also, of course, me submitting, 2 full capsule collections, and the category was men's sportswear. When I reached out to when they reached out to me, they didn't even have all of the details sorted out in regards to how they were going to do this whole diversity and inclusion initiative or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
It was super fresh when I reached out to them or whatever, right? And so anyway, long story short, I had the actual interview Skype with the design team. Alessandro was there. It was David Rand, who happened to be the design director. I think it was the head of knitwear, the head of men's sportwear, and I think the head of men's tailoring. And it was great. They were like, hey man, you're such a well-rounded designer. We love what we see. They had everything printed out, going through the work.
That's awesome.
They were like, hey man, we love this, man. And so I think the next step is going to happen really fast for you. And so of course, when the Skype was over, when the interview was over, I was like, oh shit, don't tell me about the pack up and move to Rome. Because again, like for people who don't know, Gucci's headquarters is in Milan. However, the design studio is 3 hours away in Rome. So anyway, so I was like, oh shit, I'm about to move to Rome. This is crazy. And so this was in the top of June. All right. After, of course, they got back from the Met, which is in May. So a month comes, I get an email from acquisition saying, unfortunately, you didn't get the role. We recognize that your level of design, you're at a senior level, and this initiative is more towards juniors. So I felt like I got hit with a little ageism type shit. I mean, it was weird. I was like, hold on, but I'm gonna tell you something.
Overqualified.
I'll never forget this. Like when I first interviewed one of the guys, he was Italian. He was like, how old are you? And I guess he saw the gray or whatever. And I was like, I'll be 36 next week. You know what I mean? Whatever. So anyway, of course, that was a gut punch. I was hurt. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God. But of course, I'm the kind of guy, I'm never a defeated person. I take a punch, man up, and I go forward, right?
Definitely.
So fast forward, I think maybe 3 months later, I get approached by Nike. Their head of their VP of diversity hits me up on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And he's like, hey man, I see the experience, man. I want to recruit you for something. Are you able to talk? And I was like, of course. And so what this was a design team that they were putting together for Serena Williams.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I was like, of course, hell yeah, I'll pull up. So I went to the headquarters, did this little design competition thing they had. It was great. I mean, their chief designer, John Hoop, came by my space. He was like, oh my God, this is really super. Again, I didn't get it with this one. I didn't get any call. Matter of fact, I had to approach them. And it was so weird because when I was at the matter of fact, let me be specific. When I was at the headquarters, it was at the New York office.
Okay.
However, their whole team of designers and their top HR people was here, right, from Beaverton. And so I remember going to one of the head HR guys, and I was like, "Hey, I'll be in Beaverton next week for a meeting," which was true because during the time I was designing these soccer kits and this merch for this street soccer club called Street FC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so anyway, I was like, and so we had a meeting. Ironically, we had a meeting the next week after, right? And so I was saying, hey man, I'll be in Beaverton next week. And so the guy's like, oh well, hit me up when you're in town or whatever. So anyway, banged out that competition. It was great. Flew to Beaverton for the Street FC meeting. Hit up the guy. He didn't respond. I come back to New York City. Everyone who I met during that whole competition was like, oh, we know you got it. We know you got it. We know you got it. And no one hit me up. So I actually approached the guy and I sent him an email. I was like, hey, what's up? Yeah. And so the guy goes, oh my God, I thought you were telling me that you were going to Nike for an interview. And I was like, nah. So he was like, well, let's keep in touch, that whole thing.
Yeah, of course.
Again, so and I like to speak about 2019 because that's when I really realized that it's so important to feel losses. It's like big losses, not little losses, but it's so important when you're in a journey to feel some losses. You know what I'm saying? And then
definitely
you ask yourself a question. Okay, what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? When I got the first punch to Nike, I was like, and I knew that could have been a game changer. Yeah. I spent, weeks of making those collections and those projects and submitting them to the team. And then also just that one full day of working with Nike for Serena, it was amazing. Yeah. Again, so toward the end of 2019 is when I got approached by Teddy from Dore. Teddy hit me up and he was saying, hey, JT, man, I hear your name, you know what I'm saying, and, floating around different conversations. And I love to, speak with you and maybe we can work on something.
Definitely.
And so the top of January, I pulled up to his shop and we hit it off, man. Me and Teddy, we hit it off and it was cool. You know what I'm saying? And so he just basically said, hey, man, I need some help with this next collection, which was SS21. And I'd love to get your eye on it and just see what we can do.
Definitely.
And so it went to Aime and banged out from January to mid-March. And it was great because going back to the ideal I crafted when I put Moment on the shelf, I almost looked at it like I was offering a service, meaning that it's not a full-time hire. Give me your 1099 paper, let me sign it, let me bang out, let me go. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And I think this is so important to say. For me, this was my plan. I didn't want to create an identity for myself through someone else's company.
Definitely.
And I knew what that entailed. I knew it required not too much social media as far as the space I exist in. Yeah. Not too much, you know what I'm saying? Just keeping things quiet, just of course, just working in the shadows. And I was totally fine with that. Yeah. And not to knock anyone who does that. I mean, how you go to someone's, page and that they work for Marc Jacobs.
Of course. Of course.
They work for whatever.
Yeah.
Not to knock that at all, because I definitely understand that. And that's something that you should feel proud about. But for me, I knew, okay, cool. If I'm going to attack these young, cool brands, I want to do it in a way where it's understood that this is who I am. This is, even when you looked at my LinkedIn, I wanted to be obvious that it was freelance, head designer.
Exactly.
I wanted to be able to communicate through that. So with that being said, that's pretty much how I operate as far as creating for these brands. I remember, if I was to speak about Willie Chevalier. Yeah. I actually met Willie on a plane going to Florence. I was going to the big, Menswear trade show, Pity.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was or whatever. And this was in January of 2015. Mind
Okay.
you, that was the same year I attempted to launch Moment, which that dropped in July.
Right.
So I ended up seeing him on the plane. We ended up just talking or whatever. And then I saw him the next day, day one at Pity. And he was like, "Oh my God, you're super chic. You look so nice." Blah, blah, blah. We just hit it off. And then fast forward to July. I kid you not. Fast forward to July. I didn't do any trade shows, but I was walking some of the trade shows because, just a vibe.
Yeah.
I remember walking Liberty Fairs. It was me and, of course, my homegirl, Sharifa, who happens to be the co-founder of Liberty. So we're walking the floor, and I see Willie. I kid you not. Willie comes to me, and he goes, "Hey, JT, it's this brand I saw on Hypebeast this morning. That's fucking amazing, man. It's fucking amazing, man." And I'm like, "Let me see." And he shows me Moment. He shows me Moment. And I was like, "Dude," I'm like, you trolling me right now? What's going on?" He's like, "This is my brand." He's like, "What?" This is like, "Yeah, this is my brand, man. What are you saying?"
It was like pause.
"Get out of here. This is whatever." Of course, I was flattered, but I still was tickled. So from then to 2 years later, Willie, because at the time Willie had a shop called Palmer Traders.
Okay.
Which was in Soho, right on Sullivan Street.
Yeah.
And Willie decided to close Palmer Traders and launch his own namesake brand, Willie Chevrolet. And so 2 years later, from that moment there, he approached me and he asked me like, "Hey, do you know any people, any interns who can help me with design?" And I was like, I know some people, some students or whatever. And then later on that night, he was like, "Hey, JT, I have a proposition for you." And so that's how I got with Willie. And I said all that to say, my initial plan was to attack these cool brands, quote unquote cool brands. But to be honest with you, I'm so thankful, man. All of those brands, they actually came to me.
Came to you, yeah.
They came to me, just having those moments to myself where I realized, okay, I'm definitely where I'm supposed to be, because sometimes sometimes when you're in a journey or you're trying to pursue something, you realize like, hey, this, I guess it's not for me, man. I guess I got to go back to the 9 to 5 or whatever.
Definitely.
So that's pretty much kind of the New York story of things,
Definitely, man. Definitely. It's an incredible story. And I feel like there's not enough time to probably talk about all the moments in your life all the moments in your life where, exceptional things happened, or you met the person, or you were doing this and saw this person. It's just interesting though, because it really does speak to what you were talking about earlier, building momentum, starting somewhere. Right now, my girlfriend is writing her own children's book, right?
Beautiful.
And
gotta send me a copy, because it's book time for me every night at 9 o'clock.
Oh, that's true. That's perfect, man. That's very true. I'll have to send you a copy. They're in the process of getting it approved, the final version. So it should be out within the next couple of weeks. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
But she's starting her own children's book, and just the people that you meet, you don't intend to meet, is kind of what I'm getting from some of your stories too, where like you start something, you create that momentum, you create that energy towards something, and the energy almost latches on to other people who are also doing things or need things. And obviously you did the footwork and reaching out to the people you needed to reach out to as well. But it's really interesting how that kind of works too. So
Yeah.
Man, that's a powerful. How do I want to kind of go into this next question? Which I don't even know what I want to do yet. Let's talk about some of your inspirations, man. Some of the people that you're inspired by, who you look at, who you're like, damn, yeah, they got it. They did a good job here, or damn, I like the way they do this. Who are some people that you're inspired by, or collections, or whatever you're inspired by, man?
You know what, man? As far as people, because I'm gonna say this, man. Only people inspire me, and I've always said, like, we've kind of ran the word inspiration thin, a little too thin in regard of creating.
Yeah.
So even when I create, I always say that inspiration is only 10% of the process, and the other 90 is being energized. Actually getting it done, because when you have 72 hours to put some shit on the runway, I mean, it's not inspiration, because the inspiration is all long gone.
It's long gone. Yeah.
And now it's about being energized and banging it out, right?
Yeah.
But going back to what you said as far as people who inspire me, which is such a beautiful question. For the past few years, man, I've really been into Ryan Coogler, man.
Okay.
Of course, the director of Black Panther and Fruitville, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The reason why is because, again, I'm into people. And when I discovered his story, however, he's at a whole nother height he's at a whole nother height with film than I am with design, but I feel that there's so many parallels with me and him as far as story, a guy who played college football, so did I, quit, pursued art.
Yeah.
And was able to, maneuver and make something happen. And I also, not only that, I feel like he definitely creates. You see someone, you may question if they really do the work. You can look at him and say, oh yeah, this guy, the way he speaks, the way he's carrying himself, his whole approach, know he's an artist,
Yeah.
And so he's someone who I would look at like, and also he's young, you know what I'm saying? He's married. So I look at that guy like, yeah, this guy inspires me, but also people like just going on with that, just people who do multiple things, you know what I'm saying? Who's able to do, to be a full-time parent, but they may be an author, they may do film, they may be in the real estate, just people who can do it all, you know what I'm saying? Just a full range of, workers, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
The people who do this whole balanced life, you know what I'm saying? family and work,
Totally.
But as far as to speak on some designers, I know what the people want to hear. You know what I'm saying? I know what the people want to hear. You know what I'm saying? As far as fashion designers, people who I definitely tip my hat to, I love what Grace Wells Bonner doing. I love what she's doing. Love Grace. I love Martine Rose. I love what she's doing also. I have to take my hat off for Virgil, of course. And I'm going to tell you why. I remember, again, living in Chicago, 2011. I remember, I lived in an area called Wicker Park.
Yeah.
Wicker Park is like the Williamsburg of Chicago. And I remember walking down Damon Avenue and seeing, Virgil, and this is when he had hair in his head. It was Virgil and Don C, walking down Damon. I'm pretty sure they were probably coming from RSVP, which was their shop.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing these guys. And I remember me saying, oh, those are the guys that work for Kanye. And then you see where they took it, where you see where Virgil's taking it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I definitely have to, just from a personal standpoint, just seeing it, you know what I mean? So those are some people that I definitely tip my hat off to, man. That's really killing it. That's been killing it. That have a beautiful story.
Definitely.
Then they're also lifting. They're also lifting as they climb. Jerry Lorenzo. You know what I'm saying? And again, another family man who's strong at faith. And of course, man, like you said, he's moving with conviction, and that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying?
He says it all the time. All the time.
Yeah,
that's what he says.
That's what it's about, man. You know what I'm saying? So those the right people. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I love that list.
Yeah.
Man, JT, I appreciate the time you spent on this podcast, man. I have one more question for you before we conclude, and then we'll do like a little, where can people find out more about you kind of question.
Cool.
But like I said, I really do appreciate the time. One of the last question I want to ask you that hopefully will bring a lot of value to someone listening, because my podcast is defined by the value we can bring to others.
Right.
So the question I want to ask, you've answered it kind of already in the podcast, but if you want to say the same thing you said before, let me just ask the question. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I love it.
The question is, man, let me see. What is one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring designer, artist, creative, who is, down in the dumps right now, who's in a rut, in a creative rut, just can't figure it out, what they want to do, how they want to create, where they want their journey to start, or where they want their journey to go?
Cool. This is what I would say, man. And I remember saying this on someone else's podcast last week, and I'm gonna say it on yours. I would tell that person to believe in yourself a bit more than trusting the process. You're supposed to, now don't get me wrong, you're supposed to trust the process for sure, right? But still believe in yourself just a tad bit more. And again, every time I give some type of advice, this is always something referencing a situation representing my life. So if I can kind of expound on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
I'm really good at taking whatever reality is faced in front of me and using it to my benefit. So with that being said, I understand that when it comes to design, well, fashion design, well, at least that's what I thought, whatever, or what I think. Usually the story is from 20 years old to 35. Because everyone in fashion, they always talk about their 15 years of experience, their 15 years of experience, right? That's the number that you see in regards of experience, right? But my reality is 30 years old to 45. And I knew that, 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? When I was just thinking about, what am I going to do this, right?
Right.
Because again, I spent most of my 20s, I lived a life where, I'm from a place where they teach you to, get a job, work a job, pay the bill, die.
Yep.
And I always speak about, it's so important to unlearn things than it is to learn. And so when I finally decided to just take a step towards, what was in my heart, that was my reality. Okay, well, cool. Well, because again, when I was at Thom Browne interning, I was 30 years old, man. I was older than the design director,
right.
But still I knew that I had to sit down and kind of break it down in a way where, how am I going to work this to my benefit? So with that being said, in regards to believing in myself more than trusting the process, when I started at Thom Browne, I was 30 years old. I got that position in 2013 in October. And I told myself, okay, cool. If I can just do this from October to April, my birthday is April 19th. And I told myself, just to give you all the details, I didn't want to turn 31 while designing for Thom Browne. I didn't want to turn 31 and still be there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't want to have that day where I'm in, hey guys, this is my birthday. Oh, let's go pick you up. Can you cut these swatches? Can you add these? You know what I mean? I didn't want that, right? So I did a full 7 months, and I think that first week of April, I quit. Mind you, I already had my next move already, in the play, which was to design this full ready-to-wear collection for this streetwear brand called Grungy Gentleman.
Yep.
And when I met the face of the brand, his name is Jace. When I met Jace, actually I met him when I was at Thom Browne, obviously, and he was like, "Hey, I hear if you're at Thom Browne, you must be great." Blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so when he, when he asked me if I could build his collection, I was like, I had a moment to myself. I had to ask myself, "Yo, am I ready to do this?" And I just said, "You know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I designed a collection, and then fast forward to the actual show, which was in September of 2014. Everyone backstage thought I was Jace. They were like, this is not your brand. You're not the Grungy Gentleman. I was like, no, he just hired me to design this. And they were like, whoa, man, you should do this, man. You should really do this. This is you. And so within that moment, I was like, you know what? Damn, things are really happening. Thom Browne, and then like the article said, in 2 years I was taking ankle braces off of shorties to being in Paris with Thom Browne, sending looks down the runway. Yeah. So, and then of course doing this whole show for Grungy all by myself, no assistant, no internal, nothing. I was like, damn, maybe I should. And this is just me being here in New York City for 2 years. So again, I stepped out and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna try to do moment, right? Yeah. So we have 2 years of me being in New York City. Again, New York City was so big to me during the time, Yeah. And I attempted to do moment. It did well as far as the people, and that was enough for me. And I look at that as me believing in myself a bit more than trusting the process. Now I'm going to speak about trusting the process.
No doubt.
For me, this is trusting the process. You take a 21-year-old student that's fresh from FIT or Parsons. They get hired at, let's say, at Thom Browne. They're going to trust the process in the context of, hey, I'm 21 years old. I just got hired at Thom Browne. I can work here for 4 to 5 years, learn the business, get my skills right, do what I got to do, and then let's see what happens. So you've given one brand 4 to 5 years, you're already 26. And then let's say you get hired by another brand. Let's say it's Dore or somewhere, or, and then you give that brand another 3 to 4 years, right? At a better position, and you go up or whatever. So you've already given 2 brands, maybe 7 to 8 years of your life. Yep. And then you say to yourself at 29, 30, okay, cool, I think I'm ready to do my own thing. So I think that's trusting the process more, right? Than believing in yourself. So for me, I think you should believe in yourself a bit more, because those two guys, when you first heard my podcast with Jay and Des from Different,
Yeah.
I always tell these guys, look, you guys are going to be rich before you guys turn 30 because they're already 22 years old and they already have their company, right? And I always say to those guys, you guys are believing in yourself more than trusting the process, meaning they could be like, let me just devote, the next 8 to 10 years, working for a tech company or working for, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
The advice I would give is to definitely believe in yourself just a tad bit more than trusting the process. Not the shit on the process, because the process is beautiful.
Yeah.
But again, for me, I looked at it like, look, I'm 30 years old. I can't give Thom Browne 4 or 5 years of my life. You know what I mean? Totally. I can only give him 7 months years. I can only give him 7 months.
Yeah.
Go to another brand as head designer, do that,
Definitely.
and then launch my own thing. And then from that, come in as head designer for these brands.
Definitely. That's a beautiful way to put it, JT. I actually really, really like that. And for me, it just hits home. Like, it just hits home because it's the same story for me, man. I believe in the things that I get to do for my brand, for this podcast, for the content that I create. That's a beautiful ending, man. Where can people find out more about you if they want to? I don't know how accessible of a guy you are, but if more people want to learn more about maybe you, more people want to learn about what you do.
I'm still in the shadows right now. So
he's still in the shadows.
I'm still in the shadows, but however, let's just say if moment was to, happen within the next season or year or whatever, hopefully that'd be me stepping out the shadow. But still,
no doubt.
You can just find me on my Instagram, man, which is JT is alive. That's JTIZ alive.
Cool.
And also I'm on LinkedIn, man. So if there's anyone that want to, hit me up and, speak or get some perspectives or some advice, pull up,
No doubt.
We're not here for a long time, man. So it's always good to share and pass on the knowledge if you have it.
Each one teach one. That's what I was told.
Easy. That's the fact.
One of the last thoughts I want to add to this podcast before we conclude, and this is going to be on the episode, is I really, really love the idea of momentum. I really love that because for me, talking to you, having a chance to talk to you, man, it's an incredible opportunity. I remember when I first started the first episode of the Beyond the Garment podcast, there's no way I could think about having you as a guest. And so just like your analogy with Kobe with basketball, the first jump shot he made, I had to start the podcast and you had to start, designing in order for us to even be in position to cross paths.
Yeah.
And it's just another example, guys, of just believing in yourself, just like you said. That's right. So, all right. We're gonna cut it right there, man. Boom, just like that. What do you guys think of John? What do you think of the podcast, man? One of my favorite podcasts to date. This is episode 39. And if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, leave a comment. Tell me what you got out of it. I would love to know. I'll see you guys in the next video, which should be, I think, Friday of this week. So I can't wait to show you guys what I've been working on. I'll see you guys then.